you threw a party. You invited everyone you knew. You would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say thank you for being a friend.
Hey guys, welcome back to another week. This week we are going to be jumping away from less direct editing and into more photography, taking a picture. So get ready, prepare yourself, and let's get into it right now. This week we are jumping on the bandwagon that has been taking the world, I would say, by storm, and we are recreating famous paintings as photographs of ourselves with whatever we got at home. So I'm sure you've seen some of them. There's this awesome Instagram, not sponsored by them, but shout out to them, linked right here, examples of them very accurately recreating these famous paintings, and then we're going to try to do that. So you are going to be given plenty of links to museum websites and their collections. Your image has to be from an actual museum. It can't just be something you Google, famous painting. I really need you to make sure you know this painting and you're not just copying someone's idea that's already been done. So once you find a painting that you really like, you are going to recreate it. And that means doing the best you can. So if your person has a beard, pretend you have a beard, wrap your hair around. If you have long hair, use some makeup from someone in your family to give yourself a beard, wrap some t-shirt around your chin, whatever works. But if you have a beard, there should be a beard. If they're wearing green, you should be wearing green. That kind of stuff. Really going that extra mile to make it as accurate as possible. No, I know it can't be an exact replication, and by no means are any of these need to be, but you do need to put in that effort. It shouldn't just be a selfie and you say, hey look, this is the Mona Lisa. I need to see a little more than that. Mona Lisa had no eyebrows, so cover your eyebrows. Alright, so I'm going to do this myself. This is the painting I chose, and now I'm going to recreate it to the best of my ability. So, looking at my painting, and it is off screen here, if you see that weird light, this is in Martha Graham. Don't really know anything about her, haven't done a lot of research on it, but I just really liked it. It's just an interesting pose and simple enough clothing that I can do it. Things to think about when you're recreating is the clothing. Again, if you can't get the clothing right, think about the color scheme. She has big white sleeves and then black and then white, and I have a shirt that has big sleeves that's somewhat white. If you're doing someone that has exaggerated features or colors, like her lips are a little pink, so I'm going to add just a little bit of color there. And of course, the backgrounds can be tricky. They can range from really complicated to really simple versus just blue, and this futon is blue, so I'm going to pose right in front of this, and I'm going to have to get rid of my bangs with a headband. Okay, so I'm going to get changed, and I'll see you back here when I am in character, we'll say. Okay, so I am dressed to the best of my ability. So again, get creative. Don't be afraid to look goofy. You're in your house or your home. Like, no one's gonna see you but maybe your family. I'm going to try to take this myself using a tripod and a timer. It's totally doable by yourself if you're afraid of asking someone for help. So again, I'm going to use this as my background. I'm going to actually get on my knees and pose. Another thing to keep in mind when you take this picture is the lighting source. So what direction is that lighting coming from? For her, it's coming from this side, so I'm going to move my light source over there. It's definitely not as warm as mine too, but again, I'm going to show you how to edit it to fix tiny little things like that. So a light source for you could be a flashlight. You turn off most of the lights in the room and then have one direct source, the better. Your phone's flashlight is fine. Most of them are pretty strong, but a real flashlight is also fine. If it's near an open window and it's sunny outside, use that to your nose too. But yeah, so I'm gonna set all this up. Alright, so I've taken my picture. I realized that this background, as much as I wish it would work, it didn't. So I'm going to edit it a little bit to make it look more cohesive, and get rid of stuff in the background that I don't like. And I'm also going to show you how to adjust the picture lighting wise in these editors so that it is more accurate. So if you have a warm light like mine, so it's a little yellow and orange, and you need something more cool or neutral, so a white light or a bluish toned light, of course we talked about this, hopefully you remember, I can show you how to make it look like that. Basically get it to where you want it to be and as accurate to your painting as possible. Yeah, so let's jump into that. Jumping into a Pixlr demo, I'm going to open my recreation and I'm going to open the background image that I want to put on it. This might be an extra step for you if you don't need to add a background, so I'm just going to quickly cut my face out of its background and put it on this background. So now I have it as I want it, and we can move on to adjustments. So if you go to the adjustment on the toolbar and pick temperature and tint, that will change the temperature. So that's that cool and warm I was talking about. I'm on the background right now trying to get it to be blue like her background, and I'm just comparing it. As you can see, it's a little more teal in the actual picture, so I'm going to fix that. I'm going to go to hue and saturation, and that's going to change the type of blue it is. As I scroll through, it's going to add more green, more blues, more purples, depending. And then saturation is how bright and obnoxious it is, and lightness is, of course, how bright it is. So I'm messing around with these on the background to get that as accurate as possible. Now that I like what I've done with my background, I'm going to move on to my face. I'm going to check, and she's kind of also got a bluish greenish tint, so I'm going back to that hue and saturation and messing around on that slide to get that same color of her skin as best as I can. Again, I'm using those two, temperature and tint and hue and saturation, just to get it as close as I can. Now I'm going to check the brightness and contrast, and that is just the overall brightness and how dark versus light to light, and just to get my shadows and highlights where I want them. So those are the main ones, and now I'm just going to mess around a little more with them to get it exactly how I want it, and then I will show you the next step. Another good trick is if you go to filter and vignette, like vinaigrette, this makes a black kind of filter on the edges of your piece. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the background layer, and I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, it kind of just fuzzes and darkens the edges, which if your painting or your artwork has that, it's a very simple trick for that. So I'm just going to mess around with that to get it where I want it, to be very dramatic. What's left is to add a few finishing touches, change some things that I feel need to be a little more accurate, and then we will save and submit. Just to refresh, to save, you go to File, Save, make sure it's a JPEG, and the name is accurate and it's on high quality, and you would download and submit that to Edmodo. I'm now going to move on to the Photoshop Mix and Fix demo. Welcome to the app demo. So we're opening Photoshop Mix, and I'm starting a new project with my recreation photograph, and I'm going to open a background that I want to use and cut out my background off camera so it's fast and easy. And boom! So now I have my background the way I want it and my body cut out. So we can move on to adjusting. So pressing adjust. If you click temperature, that changes the temperature of the light, so a warm versus cool, which is what I was talking about before. And contrast makes those darks extra dark or everything kind of gray, depending on where you want it. Exposure is how bright everything is. Saturation is how bright the colors are, so think neon versus pastel. Clarity is how smooth everything can be, blended as it were. Shadows, how bright or dark the shadows are. And then, of course, highlights is how bright or white the highlights are. So playing around with these to get what you want out of your photograph. And then you press the check mark. Another tool is if you go to the blend, you can choose the filters that they have already for you and choose how much of it you use. None of these pertain to mine necessarily, but I wanted to show them to you in case it helps you edit yours. They all do different things, so you are welcome to mess around with it. And my cat's walking across my computer. Thank you. Another important thing you can do is crop. So up on the top left, you can press that and crop it to match your image. So mine, the arms are cut off slightly at the elbows, so I'm going to fix that using crop. It's a great way to also get rid of dead space, so any checkerboard you can see or something that doesn't line up, make sure to crop that out so it looks like a finished product. So now I'm just going to mess around in the adjust to get my face and the background layer how I want them. So I'm going to save my image and open it into Photoshop Fix. Again, this is an optional part, but they do have some other tools that Mix does not have that are definitely cool and might be useful to you. So I'm going to open my image from Photoshop Mix, and I'm just going to go over the tools. So they have that vignette that makes the edges black and fuzzy. It's a great tool if you need something quick around the edges. They also have their own adjust, so if you go on their adjust, you'll see many of the same tools on Photoshop Mix. Again, you can use those. They are all generally the same, nothing new there. They also have something called light, so if you need a highlight somewhere or to darken a certain place, this is what you would use. The lighten obviously makes it lighter, and the darken makes it darker, and you would just brush onto that area and you can see that it makes it darker. So if you need to add a shadow or add a highlight, this is a great tool for that. And then they also have defocus, which blurs anything that you paint, same way you would add the light. Anything you brush will become defocused, it will become blurry. So that's also a great tool, and you have all the control in where it is. You also have paint at your disposal, so if you're doing something with weird colors, you could always paint your face in the edit afterwards and not in person. It's a very easy way to do that. And then, of course, save your final to camera roll and submit that final image along with your artwork. And so that is it. Submit your final and the picture of the artwork that you were inspired by so I can see them next to each other, and have a great rest of your week. And I will see you next Friday.